Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name's EJ Marino and today we are diving into a brand new review of John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum. Usually by the third film in a franchise, it starts to lose steam, but not with John Wick 3. Director Stahelski is doing a great job with keeping this franchise, and this movie specifically, alive. Because this movie feels like it has a pulse. It doesn't stop moving, it is action-filled, gets my blood pumping from the very start. I had such a good time with John Wick 3 that I was really surprised. Look, my expectations for this movie were fairly high already. I've liked the first John Wick. The second one, not so much, but the trailers for this film have been like magnificent. So to see the final product and like it this much is amazing, but that's a true testament to Keanu Reeves, to the director Stahelski, and just the world of John Wick. It's not only intriguing and engaging, but it's a damn good time. You want to be in the world of John Wick, even with all the broken bones and blood flying everywhere. You like to be there. Even with all the gore on screen, I could not see anyone in that theater take their eyes off that screen. They needed to see what happens. Even if they were like, oh, this is gonna be gross, they had to see. And that is just how captivating John Wick 3 truly is. And don't think this movie is just wall-to-wall action. John Wick 3 actually has a really good plot, a lot of good world building, and some amazing humor and heart from Keanu Reeves. Yes, Keanu Reeves is on top of his game in this movie. I have not seen John Wick feel this fleshed out since honestly the first film. That second one, I really truly thought he was like a robot. There was just like nothing to that movie that gave me that soul. But in this movie, I not only get so much personality from John again, but Keanu seems to be enjoying it so much. The fight scenes, like other than trying to kill these people, it seems like he has a smile on his face because he is loving what he is doing. I mean, the fight choreography is phenomenal, but also those moments where he gets to have a heart-to-heart with Anjelica Huston's character, he gets to throw some shade with Ian McShane's character. That is so refreshing for this, for this movie. I think having that entertainment factor go up even more with snappy dialogue and some really good heartfelt moments. That's what this franchise needs to stay alive, to keep being as fresh as it is, because I truly can't think of an action movie that has everything like this. I compared it on Twitter, which was a pretty bold claim, to Mad Max Fury Road. But that's what it reminds me of. It's that level of everything, that artful level of filmmaking going into an action movie. It isn't just trying to be like, look at these cool scenes with all this violence. It's trying to be like, look at these scenes with all this cool violence, but also I have 35-40 minutes of good, heartfelt, real human moments in my action craziness. That isn't taking away from how amazing the fight scenes are. I mean, in my list, I was like, ooh, I like that knife fight scene, the dog fight scene, oh, this fight scene. I just kept listing fight scenes that were amazing, that were memorable, and there's so many in this movie. I think for me, the first one is the knife fight, where it's just walls of swords and knives and axes, and all the bad guys are pulling them off. Keanu's pulling them off. That was so cool. I mean, you see it in the trailer, but he's throwing into the head. Loved seeing that. And okay, for me, I'm glad to see knives, hand-to-hand combat. Guns bore the hell out of me. I'm not a gun fan in real life. I don't like guns in movies. So to see this movie actually go, showing that it's no, action movies aren't just gun violence. It is just pure badass hand-to-hand combat. You got me. And everyone though, even Halle Berry has some great hand-to-hand combat. Even the acting from the dogs when they're like, oh, I'm gonna be a badass and bite this man. I believed it. This movie is believable in its insanity and its action, which is kind of all we want from an action movie. Sometimes I don't mind it being over the top and ridiculous, but even with as ridiculous as moments in this movie were, I was still feels real. I'm engaged. For any of my John Wick fans out there, you're going to enjoy this especially because there is so much world building. As much as I like the first two movies, I have my issues with the second one, as I said, but those did an okay job with telling me the world of John Wick, telling me about the high table and all this drama and all this crazy assassin world. But here, we get more info. We get more info about John. I really enjoyed that as well, that it took a moment to be like, okay, we had some good funny moments, we had some good action moments. Now let's explain this world a little bit more. Now, it's not going to give you all the answers on a silver platter and be like, here's what the high table is, here's what these gold coins mean, here's what this means, the markers, blah blah blah, this weird Anjelica Huston school for assassins and ballet. It's not going to tell you everything, but what's presented you understand, and you're starting to be like, this world is lived in, it's real, it's fleshed out. I love seeing something like this that feels like they took time into not just building a world where you have an action movie, but a world that feels lived in. Like the Marvel movies, DC, Harry Potter, all of these franchises come in with so much mythos and established ideas and content and all that, and that's what I like about John Wick. It feels to me as big as these other movies. As much mythos goes into Harry Potter, I feel like we're starting to build that in John Wick, and I think that is so cool to see and so different for action. With amazing action, the most humor I've seen in a John Wick movie, but also the most gore in a John Wick movie. This has everything. Somehow this movie shot up to my top 3 of the year and my favorite John Wick movie in the franchise. Hell, one of my favorite action movies since The Raid. This is everything. If you're a fan of action movies, if you're a fan of John Wick, you need to see this movie. You have your tickets already. My review is only like reaffirming how amazing this movie is for you. But if you're not sold on it, if you are into any kind of action movie, want to see any kind of violence, John Wick 3 is the movie for you. One of my favorites of the year, one of the best I think I'm going to see by the end of 2019. I still am going to remember John Wick 3, and that's how important it is. Thank you so much for tuning into my review of John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum. Oh my god, the title is so long, but don't let that title distract you from how amazing this movie is. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you comment down below what your thoughts of this movie, what your thoughts of this review are. Make sure you subscribe to my channel because I make videos like this every single week, and also give me a thumbs up because YouTube takes those very seriously. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys, and let's talk about John Wick in the comments below.